opportunity to have a conversation with you. General Milley, thank you very much for being here and for your service to our nation. Thank you for the conversation that we had in our office earlier this week. I found it extremely valuable, and I appreciate the amount of time that you were willing to spend and the expertise you were willing to share. Let me start with something that the Secretary said in his comments, readiness wins wars. And I'm particularly interested in this issue of readiness, and particularly how readiness is related to troop strength. And legislatively, we're working to increase the authorized levels for both the Army, the Marines, the active duty, as well as the Guard. And General, let me visit with you about this topic and ask you if returning the Army to its end strength of 480,000 soldiers in the active duty, 350,000 in the National Guard, and 205,000 in the Reserve, does that support your #1 priority of readiness?
I think the short answer would be sure. I think that having increased numbers would help out in readiness. Only if, though, we had the money to support that, and that's really fundamental. The reason that this budget has us on a glide path towards 450 in the regular Army and 335 in the Guard and 195 in the Army Reserve is because that's the size force balanced with modernization and readiness that we can afford given that top line. So given the budget agreement, et cetera, if more money were available and we could increase size of force, I think that'd be great. I do want to caution, though, that numbers are not the only thing. Quality matters. When I talk readiness, I'm talking about units that are full up on strength, they're highly trained in combined arms operations, they're capable of sustaining and executing counterinsurgency operations. So the size of a given force is important. Quality has a quantity, or quantity has a quality all its own. So that is important, but that is one of many factors to determine capability and the outcomes in ground combat. But I certainly would welcome additional end strength only if it came with the money attached to it.
Let me ask the question about training and equipped, which you indicate is so important. Numbers alone are insufficient. How those individual soldiers are trained and equipped is important. But with the number of deployments, the ability to spend time in training and equipping forces is in part dependent upon the troop strength.
Absolutely. No, the op tempo today that we have, 190,000, 140 countries, the combatant command of demand out there, time is a critical resource in building readiness. So you have to have time to train, have to have time to hit the sled multiple occasions, to build up your skill sets, to do the type of tasks that we're required to do. So time is a critical resource. If you have a larger end strength, then you can have a larger amount of force dedicated in terms of time towards the training tasks that are required. So for sure, it does factor in on that.
Thank you very much. In one of the aspects of readiness that you and your staff have been helpful to me on, helpful actually to soldiers in Kansas, is the completion of Irwin Army Hospital at Fort Riley. And even, you are true to your motto of readiness, because in helping us get the hospital out of the morass of lawsuits and construction issues, you did so recognizing that in order to have a fully trained, equipped, and healthy force, that health care administered through that hospital is important. What we now know about that issue, the hospital at Fort Riley, is that the construction issues are to be completed by March next month. But we are still being told that the hospital will not be move-in ready till July. And my request of you is, would you continue to work with us to see if we can get the dates shortened from a matter of months to a matter of weeks?
I absolutely will. Let me make a comment, though, and I'll check with the actual timelines, et cetera. But my experience, and I was a senior commander at Fort Hood, base 50,000, and a senior commander at Fort Drum with 10th Mountain Division. So I have some experience with some hospitals, and at Fort Hood, we happen to be building a hospital as well at the time. So going through the engineering and the timelines and the construction, et cetera, of that particular hospital, and I suspect similar things are happening at Riley, but I'll check to be sure, is once the construction's done, that's not the automatic move-in date, because it takes time to move in all the equipment, the medical equipment, conduct the inspections, certify everything, and make sure all the things are running in accordance with the medical standards and the engineering standards that are required to effectively run a hospital that's safe for patients. I'll get back to you on the specific timeline. I'll work to accelerate it if we can, but I suspect those post-construction activities are what's contributing.
My understanding is that the equipment, the furniture, et cetera, has already been moved in. Mr. Secretary, I just raised this issue for your awareness as well. My time has expired. If I can just ask a very quick and passing question. Yesterday, the administration announced a plan in regard to the closing of Guantanamo Bay and the detention facility that's there. And General, let me ask, my understanding is that the military, the Army, has provided perhaps information necessary for that plan, number of soldiers, costs, et cetera. But was there analysis completed by the Army in regard to that plan? And I ask in particular because potentially the housing of those detainees may be at an Army installation, perhaps in Kansas or in Colorado. And I wondered the extent, was this the Department of Defense, or did the Army specifically provide analysis in the preparation of that report?
What we provided were facts in terms of what's available in Army installations, how much space there is, what the security arrangements are, cost, the amount of soldiers that are currently committed to GITMO, how much that costs out of the Army budget, et cetera. So facts. As far as the analysis of the plan, Senator, I haven't seen a plan other than what I saw announced the other day. I personally haven't. I'll check with my staff. I don't think they have analyzed a plan per se, something that I would consider a plan. But we did provide input, data input, to the Department of Defense and those folks that are working some sort of plan.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you,